Now, I guess I am live here. Blah, blah, blah. New. I apologize for being late. If someone could say something just to confirm that I am live, maybe put it in the chat box here. Okay. Estoy listo. There we are. All right, we're here. Okay. First of all, I was told that I should do something here. We'll see what happens. Okay. So I apologize for being late. I had an interview in Italian with a Italian blogger, podcaster guy, and we had a fabulous discussion. And I said that I needed to get away in time to start this, and it just went on and on and on. And then we couldn't get Zoom going, and I had to record it, and I wasn't sure if I could get this started, if it would ruin my recording and stuff. Anyway, I'm here. So we are going to streak here. And I want to explain what we're trying to do with these 90-day challenges and streaks and so forth. So language learning is a matter of habit, okay? And let me know if there's any problem with the sound. It's so difficult. Like, I'm talking at the computer and I don't know if it's all working out fine. But what do we see? I don't see any negatives. Hello, yeah, what's up here? Okay, so language learning is a matter of creating habits. You have to create habits with a new language. These are new habits, new linguistics habits, new almost cultural habits. But you also have to create the habit of studying languages. It becomes an activity that's rewarding, that's almost addictive. And so by forcing yourself to go for like a 3-month period, you're not only going to create new habits in the language or improve your habits in the language, you're going to create some study habits, which I think can be, you carry them with you, period. Now, 3 months is kind of a good period. I have found that in many languages, 3 months, now I guess I'm on this is another thing here. 3 months, I find in many languages, 3 months gets you through that first period. If you're starting from scratch, it gets you to where the language is no longer strange. You have some concept of how the language works. You hopefully have bombarded your brain with the language, as I did with Turkish for 3 months, starting from scratch. I listened over 100 hours. I read 150,000 words. All of this is bombarding my brain. I'm not, I had my lesson in Turkish. I made a lot of mistakes. I can go back in there and gradually improve. We got a message here. I don't know what that was. Anyway, just a second here. Anyway, now I lost my train of thought here. So yeah, the 3 months is sort of where you familiarize yourself with the language. Then from there, to gain all the vocabulary you need to become, call it B2, fluent, able to understand conversation around you, that's a long trip. It might be 2 or 3 3-month periods where you want to maintain your streak and you want to work on your vocabulary. You want to refer again to the sort of grammar rules that you've looked at 5-10 times and still you can't get it right. And so that, and continue to acquire more vocabulary so that you can listen to more meaningful material. Because if you listen to more meaningful material, again, you're bombarding your brain with the language, and gradually everything is becoming natural. Because you can't rely on your ability to remember a rule or remember a tense or remember things, because when you're speaking, like I'm speaking now in English, it has to come out naturally. And you have to rely on your brain. The brain will gradually acquire all these things, but you have to put that effort into it. And so I think these streaks of 3 months, even if at the end of the 3 months, like now with Turkish, I've left it, and boy, what is this now? Boy. I keep on getting messages on Slack, and I don't know if they're relevant or not. No, 10:09. Let's see what. Okay, I mean, I get the impression that it's working. So let's continue here. So what is this? So I'm getting messages bombarding me. Not good. I will rely on comments from the people who are watching me. I'm assuming that it's all working fine. So good. And I will answer these questions once I've finished what I have to say here. So, what? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. Where are we now? So I'm going to share with you what I'm going to do in my streaks here. Okay. I had 3 months of Turkish. I spent a good hour and a half a day, an hour of listening, and it's so easy to get the listening in. God, just a second. It's so easy to get the listening in because I listen 10 minutes in the morning, making breakfast. I listen in the car. I get my hour of listening in. There are areas that I don't understand that motivates me then to go and read and work on LingQ to try and learn the words and phrases. And so the listening triggers it all. So in terms of maintaining your streak, make sure you set yourself up to listen. One of the easiest ways to do that, what I have found, is if I have a course in LingQ, it could be my mini stories in Turkish. It could even, mini stories would be a good example. It might be something that I have imported from YouTube, where we are able to use the LingQ extension, to the browser extension, to bring stuff into LingQ and then make that a course. So I imported 4 items in Turkish from YouTube. So then this becomes a course. Well, in the course, you can choose listen to the audio on my app. You can do it on the site as well, but on my iPhone I go listen to the audio. So now I automatically have, if it's the mini stories, 60 stories. So I go listen to the audio. I make sure I don't always start at lesson 1 because I'm always listening to lesson 1. So I go to lesson 10, lesson 20. I've got that with me. Or if it's the TED Talks, which I imported from YouTube in Turkish, then I start listening to them. So I've got the listening going. It's going. And that's just going to add up. So the reason I get to an hour or more a day, or 100 hours over the 90-day period, is that it's easy for me. So make things easy. It's easy to set up to listen. And when I listen, I don't understand things. And so that then drives me to go and read and LingQ. And so it's like falling out of bed. It's not that difficult to get yourself to be active every day. And the important thing in language learning is being active. That's why I think we measure people's level of activity. If you are active in the language, you will learn. And, you may not learn as much as you would like. You may not be as good as you would like, but you are learning. You are learning always if you are listening and reading and speaking, because ultimately, eventually you have to speak a lot. And so it may be that in this streak or this challenge that you're on, you are already past that first 3-month period where you're wanting to become familiar with the language. Maybe you're at a level now where you actually need to speak a lot, because at a certain point you have to speak a lot if you want to speak well. And so that means maybe either setting up more conversations online or trying to find people to talk to. And I have found, whereas, I didn't used to talk so early, the mini stories, if I work them very hard, as I've done now with Greek and with Arabic and Persian and Turkish, it gets me talking earlier. Jesus. Something is not working. Well, I'm on live chat. Okay. So, so what I find very good is that I have my conversation with my tutor, and then I get a report back, and I review that. And so that provides me with more input and allows me to address the areas where I have trouble. Okay. Now I'm going to read your questions and try to answer them. So, blah, blah, blah. Okay, if you are at, here's the first question here. I am at 20,000 known words in French, where I am on the hockey stick. You are well on your way. You're on the long, I figure I talked about the sort of upside down hockey stick. And, you know, the first 3 months, you're getting familiar with the language. You're saying, wow, I can, say things in this language. And then in the next long period, it just takes a long time to accumulate words. If you're at 20,000 words, you're well on your way. The first stage, that getting familiar with the language stage, typically 3 to 5,000, 8,000 words. Okay, sounds good. Video is frozen. Well, there's nothing much I can do. I'm just going to continue here. Ok, so estudié 2 idiomas en 2 años, pero tuve la mala fortuna de no continuar. ¿Cómo puedo volver a game? You know what? How do I get back into it if I've stopped doing it? You just have to force yourself, create new habits. It's all about habits. Listening is the easiest thing to get back into. It's just too difficult for me to read Arabic on the fly like this. The Liu link from email is incorrect. And then I look forward to Poland. Line of the platform. Great. The fear to speak. How do you overcome the fear of speak? Just force yourself. It's all about communicating. And the more you fear, the less the language is going to enter your brain. I will post the Italian interview. Yes, I have never heard of Japanese from zero. What do you think about learning Chinese characters with pictures or stories? Not much. I haven't done that. Can you learn language by listening? Listening is an important part of it. Okay, the email YouTube is incorrect. Want to say thank you for your work. There are 73 clueless people over there. Question here. Did you record your first session with your Turkish tutor? First session, no. It sounds weird. I've read The Linguist in French, Spanish, thanks to link. Okay. Is it possible for 3 months to achieve B2 level in German from scratch? Oh, from A2? No, I think B2 is a very high level. So I think if you're at A2, you're looking at least another 6 months to get to B2. I think depends how much you put in every day. Is it possible to start reading novels in Japanese and Chinese after 1 year of learning 4 hours a day? Yes, it's possible. Do you think writing a lot improves speaking accuracy? Definitely. Okay, the cool link shirt. We are stay tuned. We'll be letting you know how you get that. I want to learn English, but I do not know how to start. Get on link. I went learn English, but okay. But the Heisig method. My son Mark did the Heisig method. I didn't use it. A lot of people like it. You obviously have to put in the effort to learn the characters. What are your contents in Turkish? Well, we have the mini stories. Actually, we have a lot of content in Turkish. Some that we have our mini stories. Other people have contributed content. I have brought in videos from YouTube. I have brought in dialogues from Netflix, various Turkish series. So if you go into our library, you'll find lots. Do you have any advice for someone who speaks English and French who really wants to pick a third language? Oh, so which language? You're going to have to decide. There's nothing I can tell you about what your motivation is. Learn the language you're most motivated to learn. Okay. I can understand 100% of English, but cannot speak like a native speaker. What's the solution? There is no solution. It's not realistic to expect to speak like a native speaker. Worry about understanding, which you say you understand, and communicating. Ikenna's language learning method, I don't know. I've never heard of it. a second. How to stop making grammar mistakes? It's a slow process. Review the rules from time to time. Go back to listening and reading. Try writing. Being corrected helps a little bit. Ultimately, you have to notice your own mistakes. I'm trying to learn Portuguese and Spanish simultaneously. Good luck. B2 in German, starting from scratch, 1.5 years. Yes, that is possible. Here goes really tricky question. Which language that you've learned did you enjoy the least? The enjoyment depends on the content that is available. So those languages for which I'm able to find interesting content are the ones that I enjoy the most. Those languages, the difficulty is like, say, in Korean or Arabic, where it's easy to get past that first stage where you have a sense of the language, and then the authentic material is very difficult. Obviously, if you're an English speaker learning Spanish, you can go from the beginner material to authentic material very quickly because 50% of the words are recognizable. That's not the case in Korean, Arabic, Chinese. So those, if you can't get that intermediate level of content, then it's less enjoyable. That has been a challenge in Korean and so far in Arabic. All languages bring me joy. Wait a second now. Boy, it seems to jump around. Which number? Okay. Which are your thoughts on reading out loud? I don't do it, but reading out loud, but some people do it. I think spend time with the language. I think it has its benefits. Estoy enseñando español hace 3 meses, pero nunca tuve oportunidad de hablar. Should I start having classes with a tutor? I mean, I'm finding that the tutor once or twice a week, 3 times a week is very helpful, especially if the tutor gets you talking. And if the tutor sends you a report, hopefully recorded, so you can go over what you said. Hey, Yarda, how are you? Yeah, how is your Czech? Well, I've been away from my Czech and very difficult. So I have a number of languages that are in a dormant stage because I haven't used them. But I feel, I mean, I understand. I sometimes read Czech newspaper articles online. If I were to reactivate my Czech, it would come back. But right now, it would be very difficult for me. After learning French, how much easier would be to learn Italian? Easier. I can't tell you how much. Okay, a question here, standardized tests, how useful are they? I don't do them. I learn from my own reasons. I don't really care where I stack up on these tests. If a test stimulates you, good. Anything that forces you to study is good, and that includes these streaks or 90-day challenges. It just forces you to study and hopefully develop good habits. How to speed up the learning process by comprehensive input. Just expose yourself to as much comprehensible input as you can. Boy, it seems to jump around here. Which will learn first, process or rule phonologically? I don't understand the question. Okay, with regard to stories, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow in my video, but we've decided to hold off on adding stories because it's so much work. It was so much work to get the many stories going, to control the quality, the audio, and so forth. We've decided to hold off on it and instead maybe set up some kind of a page, sort of like a wiki type page, where if people want to experiment in creating stories, they can put them there and people can look at them. And if some of them are good, I just don't know what we're going to do with this whole mini story thing, but I'm just not prepared to put the same amount of effort in that we did to come up with, 60 stories in 30 languages. It's an awful lot of work. So I'm kind of backing off from that. Which one of the English skills is above all? I don't know what that means, but if you're saying which language skill is the most important, to me, it's comprehension. If you have good comprehension, the other skills will come. When importing into LingQ to create your stories, okay, we don't import to create stories. We have our mini stories, plus any individual learner can bring in anything they want for their own use. So whatever they find, typically these things cannot be shared because there are copyright issues, but whatever is of interest to them, they bring it in. And if it's too difficult or if they don't find it interesting, they bring something else in. It's up to each individual member learner to choose what they want to bring in. Okay, James Cook. He likes it when I talk about teaching because he is a teacher of various languages. What dialect of Arabic have you been learning? I've gone after, Fusha, because there's material on the internet, websites, podcasts, because it's a bit of a base, so that if I ever wanted to focus on Levantine Arabic, Egyptian Arabic, then I could do so. Hello from Uzbekistan, greetings from Russia. Thank you. I still have fond memories of visiting Russia in June a few years ago. Now I lost that again. Where did that go? Boy, it seems to... here we are. Hi, Steve. Thank you for being such a great... Do you think learning a language before traveling to a country makes one's experience much more rewarding? Absolutely. And I think the expectation that you can simply travel to the country and then learn is unrealistic. I had the experience in Vietnam. I grabbed a phrase book, and I found that I was unable to use anything or learn anything while in Vietnam for a week. On the other hand, before going to Greece, we were in Crete for a week with my wife. I put in a good 6 months of learning Greek. And when I was there, I was able to communicate. So you have to have a certain level in order to make that visit A, rewarding, fun, talking to locals, and B, that it can actually help you improve in the language. I have easy listening and conversation, but I have a hard time reading more. Each page I do not understand. I don't understand the question. Hard time reading more. Each page I do not understand. I mean, with regard to understanding, it's a gradual process. So you just have to keep going and trust yourself. Have you been in Turkey? I was in Turkey. I was in Turkey with my wife in 1975. Haven't been back since. And now I'm very motivated to go there, because that is one thing that happens when you learn languages. Is it worth listening to podcasts if you can only understand 50%? I think so. But when I listen to something where I understand 50%, ideally, I would like to access the transcript so that I can get the parts that I'm missing. And very often, those are very important parts. So I experimented with different things, like putting them on, what do you call it? These automatic transcription sites, but the quality of this transcripts is very uneven. So I prefer to look for things where I can find a transcript. When in the early stages of learning a language and searching for literature, do you recommend adult level or children level? Might be a silly question. Okay. I do not find children material easier than adult material, because it's often there's animals and there's stuff that's not so easy. I prefer to go with something like our mini stories, where there's lots of repetition, but it's not really written for children. And then I try to find things that are of interest, but I don't necessarily, and very often nonfiction is easier than fiction. And haven't found children's stories to be easier. Okay, una rutina específica. Basically, what I do is I get up, I listen, because it's easy to do while making breakfast, or if I'm going to the office or whatever, working out. This then triggers this desire, like I didn't understand something. So then I want to go and read in order to find the words that I'm missing. So that's basically the routine. And then once or twice a week, I get on with an online tutor and talk. And then I have a record of all my conversations going back 3 months, 6 months. And I can review those and kind of relive those conversations. What's more important, to keep improving when we already know 15,000 words in English, for example? Or should I focus on reading or listening? Or what's your opinion? I don't have a tutor. Okay. If you have 50,000 words, I think you should get a tutor. That's going to improve your speaking. It's also going to create for you some more learning content focused on the words that you don't, or that you have trouble with, words and phrases. Because a good tutor will send you a nice long report, 15, 20 words, phrases that you didn't use correctly, hopefully, and you can ask your tutor to record that so you can focus in on things that you have trouble with. What I find is, if I go back and look at my, conversation reports over X period of time, I make the same mistakes week after week. So it's good. And eventually I stop making those mistakes. So it's a good way to create content for you to learn from, input material that is focused on areas where you have trouble. So start speaking and continue your reading, and hopefully get on to something of interest to you to read and listen. Any advice for learning German? No different than learning any other language. Boy, it pops up here. Oh, no. Now where did it go? Boy. It seems to just zoom up and then I lose my place here. Oh, here we are. Okay. About Mandarin Chinese. I'm at an intermediate level, but I feel I've been stuck for a while. How can I get out of this plateau? Greetings from PR, Puerto Rico, I presume. I mean, that's a common problem in learning languages. We get stuck. Several things. First of all, get yourself, if you can find something of real interest to you. So you forget about how you're doing in Mandarin, get totally wrapped up in something of interest that you're listening to and reading. You can also go and do another language and come back, because then when you come back, the Mandarin again will be fresh for you. You know, I keep on saying, you know, we need both repetition and novelty. So if you're pounding your head against a brick wall with Chinese, you don't feel you're getting anywhere, go to another language, and then you'll be anxious to get back to Chinese. You'll come back, you'll have lost a little bit, but very quickly you will move forward because it'll be fresh for your brain. I can speak, but it's not. See, I was just linking and I saw you're online. Thanks for everything. Nice to watch your videos. Hello from Turkey. Love learning Turkish. I'm getting back to Turkish, but I'm on the sort of, you know, next is Arabic, and I'm keen to get back to my Arabic. Then I'm going to be keen to get back to my Persian. Then I'll be keen to get back to my Turkish. I have a question. I think about what are the key principles to mastering a new foreign language from far away where it is not spoken? Well, most of the languages I learn, I'm learning from far away. I do it on Link. I do lots of listening and reading. Okay, Vincent, the French mini stories. Yes, we have been delinquent with these mini stories. We have German, French, maybe a few others where they haven't been completed. We have been relying on volunteers, and we've just decided we're going to go out and find people to do them so we get them done. Sorry for being late. They will be completed. What was the best in your linguistic career? It's all fun. I can't say. Christian Martinez, I'm a teacher too, English and French. I've talked all my students into using Link. I don't trust other platforms anymore. Thank you very much. That's good. And we do have a sort of program for schools, Link for the classroom. So you could send us an email to customer service and just to see if there's anything we can do to make it better for you. To import, you have to be an official member of Link, because I use Link, but I don't bought the packet. Yes, you have to be a paying member of Link to be able to import. Can I really learn a language and hold a 15-minute conversation in 90 days like Benny says? Well, I did it in Turkish. You can check out my YouTube channel and you'll see the conversation I had in Turkish for about 45 minutes after 90 days of studying Turkish on Link. Hey, from Stockholm. Hey. Will this live be on the channel when it's finished? Yes, I think so. It seems interesting, but I don't have much time. Yes, it went Pozdrowienia z Polski. Okay, thank you, Poland boy. And there's a language I want to get back to, is Polish for sure. Have you ever felt like you waste your time with a language because what you learned was useless or because you never got to an intermediate level? No. Whatever I put into a language, it's there. It might, I might forget a few things. It's always there. I can always go back to it. I can go back to my mini stories to get back up, and then I can go pursue more interesting content. It's all money in the bank. I have different accounts in my bank, and I can go back to any of them and increase their value. Never waste it. Do you use mnemotechnics to study vocabulary? No, I don't. I don't at all. What is your level in Swedish? I think I'm probably a B2. I mean, I'm quite comfortable speaking Swedish, but I have some gaps in my vocabulary. After backing off the new mini story, can you maybe think of a way to let people put and translate new stories on your website? Okay, first of all, you already have the capability of putting stories, content into Link. So that already exists. You can import stuff. You own the content, the copyright to anything that you have created. You put it into our library for that language. Obviously, it should be a native speaker. You can earn a small number of points from doing that. So that's all. That's there. Maybe we'll just stay with that. I don't know, but I am backing off the idea of undertaking to work with people who are going to submit stories, and we're going to check the stories and check the quality. It's just too much work. I think our emphasis at LingQ now is to make it easier for people to get to the authentic content, which could be YouTube, Netflix, or for Asian languages, Viki. That's kind of our emphasis. We have some things in the works that are going to make the library easier to deal with, and I think we want to spend our time there. What do you do with your saved phrases in LingQ? I review them. I see them when they come up again, when I'm reading. But I will often review my links. That's one of the phrases, rather. I'll often review them and go through in the flashcard, sometimes in dictation. It just helps me get a hold of these phrases when I see them as phrases. Renan Caetano, the LingQ mini stories are awesome. Great. Thank you from Brazil. I study Mandarin with integrated Chinese. Love these books. Blah, blah, blah. Как дела сегодня? Очень хорошо. Getting from B1 to B2 getting from B1 to B2 is a question, A, of vocabulary and familiarity with the language, continuing your exposure, your input, but that's when you want to start speaking more. To speak well, you have to speak a lot. I need a native speaker. I guess you have to look on the internet. I'm Brazil. Do you speak Portuguese? Falo um pouco. What do you think about AJATT? I don't know much about it, so no comment. No experience in learning Kazakh. At some point, when I get good enough in Turkish, I'm curious to explore how other Turkic family languages are different from each other, whether it be Azeri or Kazakh or Tatar and so forth. YouTube channel, you're going to have, for Italian, you're going to have to search yourself at YouTube. We are going to try to see if we can create lists of resources in different languages that people can import into LingQ using our browser extension. That's one of the things we're planning to do. Okay, I'm not going to be doing anything on Portuguese for the time being. It's not a language that I speak very well. But, the dilemma, if you're learning more languages, is are you going to try to improve in Italian or Portuguese or some of these languages, Russian, or am I going to explore new languages? Right now, I'm interested in exploring new languages because I'm discovering a whole new world in Arabic and Persian and Turkish right now, for example, and I find that interesting. I am motivated by what interests me. That's what drives me. I'm not motivated by the desire to say, my Portuguese is now very good. My Portuguese is okay. I can communicate. Do you know when the time is right to move on to a new language? I'd like to learn Turkish or Indonesian, but I'm afraid I'll quickly forget my progress in other languages. So I move on when I feel like it. There is no rule for me. You may have different motivations. And I don't worry about what I forget because it is still there. It gets a little rusty. One thing that is sure, if you learn something, then forget it and then relearn it, you will have it there stronger. So the fact that I'm going to have to relearn something that I once learned, it's like, I don't know if you do cross-country skiing, but the first time you're going along, you're creating the trail, but the second time you come through, the trail is already there. It goes much faster. So it doesn't bother me. No, I never worry about whether I forget. And sometimes it's good. And that's why I'm experimenting now with going, 3 languages, Turkish, Arabic, and Persian, because there's this whole issue that I always refer to, repetition versus novelty. Sometimes if you're staying with the one language and you kind of feel you're not making any progress, go to another language, refreshes things, and now you're anxious to get back to the first one. Advice on learning English is the same as advice on learning every other languages. Ni hao, what's your Taiwan? Okay, hello, Taiwan. Thank you for the feedback. There's one way to overcome ABC, more use. Yeah, well, as Christian Martinez says, any of these tests, TOEFL, TOEIC, any of these, the fundamental skill is comprehension. If you can listen and understand, read and understand quickly, then all of a sudden everything happens faster. You can respond quickly. You have time to do the test. You're giving answers to grammatical questions based on the sense of the language rather than trying to remember rules. Boy, why does it keep popping up like that? Now, where was it? So I do something that causes everything to. Gee whiz. No, let's go back up again. Boy, where was it? Okay, how many years do you need to spend abroad in order to reach a great level of fluency? There is no rule. You don't necessarily have to go abroad either. Uh, all these questions, how long does it take to do this and that? I'm not a great fan of them. Focus on enjoying the process. If you have a chance to be in the country where the language is spoken, fine, take full advantage. And if you're not, find other ways to create a language world around you. Humor, comedy, difficult to understand. Yeah, it can be a little more difficult. Any of these, situations where you're heavily into another culture are more difficult to understand. If you're talking to 3 or 4 people, it's a little easier than, say, understanding a comedy on TV. Which language has, for you, been the easiest to learn? Well, of the languages that I've done recently, would have to be Romanian. Any language where you have 60, 70% vocabulary similar to a language you already know is going to be easy. Do you use Youku for Chinese? I don't study Chinese. Okay, now here He Xiang would like me to explain this in Chinese, but I'm not going to do that because at this point, the common language here is English, so I'm going to stay with that. Is Russian grammar more complicated than German? To me, it was. The complexity of the cases, there's just more cases than in German, and just more strange rules, the verbs of motion, the aspect of verbs. Yeah. Should we learn kanji first? I think it's important to start on the kanji. I started with the hiragana, but then I knew the kanji. Whether you do it from day one or after 2 months doesn't really matter. But I believe that to be good in Japanese Chinese, you need to read, and therefore you need the characters. Yeah, Russian grammar is much more difficult. Absolutely. Truco de los idiomas, ¿cuál es? It's all the same. Input. It's what I talk about all the time. What do you think of recording one's own voice based on reading texts one already understands? I think it gets you used to listening to yourself, transmitting natural. I think it can be a good thing to do. I did it for, earlier languages like French and Chinese. I think it's good to do and to try to imitate the intonation. So have a short text, maybe listen to it, say in Link, listen to a sentence or even a paragraph, and then try and record yourself hitting that same intonation. I'm just not good enough to read Arabic here in small font on the screen, so I can't respond to that Arabic question. ¿Qué contiene el reporte de conversación? So the idea is that the tutor in a conversation will list phrases, ideally phrases, sentences where you had trouble, 10, 15, 20, and record them. And that's the report. So then that then becomes content at Link. I study it. I listen to it several times. And hopefully I don't make the same mistakes again. Probably I will make the same mistakes again, but in time I'll make them less often. Can I learn Japanese and English at the same time? Sure. If I have a favorite period in history, I don't have a favorite period in history. Recently I've become curious about the history of the country that I'm learning. But other than that, I find ancient history fascinating. I find medieval history. I find, relatively, recent history, 20th century. It's all interesting to me. Hello from Kazakhstan. What I mean is, how do you get your conversation report? Is it a request that the teacher has to describe? Okay, if the teacher is at Link, then that's a condition. The teacher will not get paid unless the teacher submits the conversation report. If you're on with someone at YouTube or at least Italki, you'll have to make your arrangements with them. I have found them very accommodating. I don't do shadowing, so I can't comment. Advice for mastering Russian cases. Since I haven't mastered them, I don't know, but I used to tag phrases which had different cases. I would try to look up if I had some doubts about what the case was, I would look it up. And so that I gradually become more and more aware. But ultimately, I think it's just a matter of having heard certain phrases so often that certain cases just seem naturally correct. If you have to think about what the case is, it's a lot more difficult. Well, when I hear you've always been at once, what changed? Okay, I had always had the position that it requires so much concentrated effort to learn that you're better to kind of maintain that intensity in order to get somewhere in the language. And I think that's still true. But nowadays, for example, with the mini stories, it's so easy to get started in a new language. And I'm at a stage where I want to explore different languages. So I just thought I would do this experiment of doing 3 languages. Again, I am going 3 months at a time on each language. So it's not like I'm doing 3 languages at the same time, the same day. And I just want to explore that and see to what extent, whether that's good or not good. I mean, it is true that we can be, like I was studying Arabic, and after a while I felt I wasn't getting anywhere because, again, this tremendous gap between the easy material and then the authentic material, and there's nothing in between. So after a while, it's tiring to go over the stuff that you already know, and then to go after something very difficult that's got 50% unknown words in it. So then I went into Persian because it was fun. So basically, it's just whatever. I don't have to. I'm not writing an exam on any of these. I just do what interests me. So do I need to speak to someone who only speaks Polish? I don't know. What I would like to do eventually is, I don't think I need to do that I would love to go to Poland. And before going to Poland, I would spend maybe a month or 2 refreshing my Polish, including talking online with a Polish tutor, get my level up, and then I'd go to Poland. And if I were there for 2 weeks speaking to people in Polish, that would bring my level up and I would enjoy my visit more. As I need novelty, especially since I've been learning French on and off for too long without much results. Yeah. So the novelty, that's interesting. So this whole novelty thing, you can get to the stage where you feel you're not making any progress and you get tired of learning the language because you're not making the progress. Then you go to another language. Then you're kind of anxious to get back to that other one. That's what I'm finding a bit with the Arabic, Persian, and Turkish. I'm reading a book and every page, I don't know 25 words. How many do you think is ideal? 25 is a lot. And in a sense, that's why we created LingQ. Like I had books here in Spanish and there'd be 5 or 10 words on every page that I didn't understand. And then I thought, gee, if there's some way that I could read and I just look up that word, because the problem is you look up those words in a dictionary, which is time consuming. And as soon as you close the dictionary, you've forgotten what was there. How many sessions did I have with my Turkish tutor? Well, I had 3 tutors and I looked it up. I had a total of 15 sessions. So the final sort of exit lesson was the 15th lesson that I'd had over the 3-month period. And I made a lot of mistakes in my 45-minute conversation in Turkish, but I can assure you that session was much, much better than my first session. And every session I just got better and better. How well do I understand Danish and Norwegian? I understand Norwegian a lot better than Danish. I love listening to Danish. I still remember Babette's Feast. And I think it's just a matter of not having heard it a lot. If I were to go to Denmark, I would do Danish at LingQ. I would acquire some of the vocabulary that's different, or words that are pronounced so, that I don't understand what the word is, even though I know the word. And then I think if I did that, then I would be able to understand Danish. Right now, Norwegian is easier. Again, there's different kinds of Norwegian. What do you think of listening and writing what you have listened, for example, audiobooks? Yeah, it may be good, but I don't have the discipline to do it. So I like doing what's easy. Listening is easy. Reading is easy. Writing, I should do, but I'm too lazy. I have no need. Yeah. So what languages were you able to learn extremely quickly due to similarity? So it's very interesting. It may be because we had the mini stories or we had LingQ was better or whatever, but it was quicker for me to learn Romanian than to learn Portuguese from Spanish. I don't know why. Maybe I became a better language learner. Maybe Portuguese and Spanish are so similar that inhibits me, whereas Romanian seemed like it went very, very quickly. What do you think about learning a third language by using a second language instead of mother tongue? Yeah, I mean, I find that if you have a third language which you know well, so that you're not having to look up words. So if I use French to learn another language, that would be fine. I buy stuff from Assimil, which is all based in French. Learning Ukrainian using Russian is helpful because it gives you a sense of which words are different. Yeah, as long as you're strong enough in that third language. How do you learn languages where you don't understand the text? What do you use initially? I use the mini stories. I mean, I've done it for Persian for 5 languages now: Greek, Arabic, Turkish. I just get on. Here's a story. It's 4 minutes long. I go through. I know no words. I look up the words. I listen to it. It's still noise. I read it. Look up the words. I start to piece together the meaning of that story. I listen to it again. I understand a little more. Then I'm bored. So I go to the second story. I do the same. And then go to the third and the fourth and the fifth, and I go back to the first. And lo and behold, after a month or so, all of this stuff becomes comprehensible. So that is because there's so much repetition in the mini stories. That's how I initiate myself to new languages. Is there any way to use LingQ if you study a lot or get points or rewards? I don't understand the question. I don't understand the question. How to stay dedicated when you're not getting results? Well, very often, that's why we measure activity. If you're being active, you are pounding stuff into your brain and it'll eventually activate. So as long as you're maintaining your streak, if you're listening, if you're reading, everything is okay. Don't be too hard on yourself. As my favorite neuroscientist Manfred Spitzer says, the brain learns, but it learns slowly. Just dropping by quickly. Thank you for inspiring me. Ever since finding you, I've consistently worked on improving great. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Yeah, we just have to keep at it. And we have to believe that it's worth it. Believe that we can do it and believe that it's a valuable thing to do, which it is. I found that when I speak too much, my listening skills tail off. What do you think? Well, if you focus on speaking, you can get to where you can say certain things. And so we have a limited amount of time to spend on language learning. If we focus on saying certain things and using what little bit we have, that is actually taking away from the time that we can spend on listening and acquiring vocabulary and so forth. So I think you have to decide where you want to spend your time. By me focusing on the mini stories and speaking early, I am accumulating vocabulary less quickly, I think, than if I spent more time on listening and reading. So eventually we have to do it all. And it's more a matter of doing what you're most motivated to do, because the key thing is to stay active. Do you think there is diminished returns if you study more than about an hour? I haven't found that, Jason, because, so I listen an hour. The hour is when I'm making breakfast or driving or working out. That drives me then to read. And so it ends up, it's an hour of listening. It's 30, 40 minutes of reading. And if I get to the stage where I'm really interested in what I'm reading or listening to, then I just keep going. And so I don't find that when you're tired of it, put the book down. Okay, hello from Ukraine. By the way, had a great visit. Oksana had a great visit in Ukraine. I loved it there. The people are friendly and the food is good and quite inexpensive. And I've now been to Dnipro and Donbass and Kiev and Lviv and Chernivtsi and so forth. Anyway, advice on how could I prepare for my C1 business English exam next spring, and where could I find study material? Okay, so, I mean, you have to I still believe that, you need the more you read, the better you write. The more you listen, the better you speak. So the input is tremendously important in improving your output. You still have to write, you still have to speak. And the more you write and the more you speak, the better. But you can't always be speaking, you can't always be writing, but the listening and reading is easier to do. So you have to do a lot of listening and reading. And you can find material. It depends on where your vocabulary is. I would bring material in from the internet, from papers, academic, business-related papers. I would save words and phrases that you want to use that make your text more powerful, more native-like. I would listen to them where audio is available so that you're driving all of that into your brain. But I would also read away from the computer. Again, variety is good. So it's one thing to read on the computer with access to, online dictionaries where you can import it into LingQ, where you can save phrases. All of that is good, but you should also read paper books or other business-related materials. You just bombard your brain with business-related material. Slovakia, I had a great visit in Bratislava, and we once went skiing in the Tatras Mountains. Okay, hi. Do you know English Center app? Do you think their method? I don't know these other apps. Do you prepare some news features for LingQ? What we're working on right now is improving the library, how we present content, how we grade out the less popular material so people see the more popular material, how we present it, visually to make it more pleasant. We're going to help people find content that they can bring in using our browser extension in the various languages that they're doing. And we're going to try to present that in a way that's more appealing. The whole idea is that content is a major driver of people's interest in language learning. And we feel we have to do a better job on how we present content. I haven't used LingQ yet because I'm waiting for Thai to be added and learn Thai. Some people are using other language slots. It's not an ideal way to do it. The best thing is if somehow we can find people, and maybe we should just, if there's strong interest in Thai, maybe we'll just have to pay people to give us the 60 mini stories in Thai, and then we would be able to launch Thai on LingQ. Greetings from Stockholm. Hey, if I understand, allt som du talar min nivå C1 på engelska. That I would, if you can understand everything that I'm saying, then you are C1, because comprehension is the key skill. And even if you struggle to speak, if you were to start speaking more, you would quickly reach that level. Because comprehension, if you can understand what the native speaker is saying, and the native speaker has quite a large vocabulary, I believe that takes you high B2, C1. Can you learn French in a year if you know Spanish? Definitely. How do you best handle text that is 90% unknown words? I'm starting Spanish and got Harry Potter book. I'm native English speaker. Thanks. Yeah, I wouldn't start with Harry Potter. I would start with our mini stories. I would start, because don't forget that, there is the sort of frequency thing. The high frequency words appear very often and the frequency declines very quickly. So I have found in my own case that working with the mini stories first before moving on to authentic material has worked for me. How do you not mix closely related languages, example, Portuguese and Spanish? I mix them. Unavoidable. Don't worry about it. The goal is comprehension and communication. What are some of your tips for traditional language teachers? It's hard for me to say because I haven't been in that situation, but I know teachers. There were some at the Longfest in Montreal who use various comprehensible input techniques in their classroom, storytelling. And I think it would be useful to do some research on comprehensible input, CI activities, which is changing how languages are taught in the classroom. After learning Hangul, what is the next step for you? Well, learning Hangul is just a basic precondition. You have to learn Hangul very early. This is the Korean script. And then it's just a matter of lots of listening and reading. The difficulty right now for me and what I want to do in Korean, now that our LingQ has improved, I can now go to YouTube, find Korean presentations, let's say, or drama, and I can import them into LingQ and study that as content. The problem for me has been the sort of lack of intermediate content, accessible content. I'm not doing Korean right now, but if I were to go back to Korean, then I would focus on finding content that is interesting and accessible to me. What do you think about learning a third language by using a second language? I went through that. Blah, blah, blah. How do you start learning? Okay, all these languages with different scripts, you have to learn the script. And it's the same process, but just more effort into learning the Korean, Mandarin, Arabic, and Japanese script. Do I speak Polish? I did, kind of. I understand it, kind of. I can read it, kind of. But it's right now, as we say in English, on the back burner. I would love to get back to it. Okay, yeah, to find someone to speak to in English, you'd have to search the internet. Do you plan to visit Slovakia or Czech Republic again? I have no immediate plans, but I would love to. Have you ever gotten very far in the language only to regret picking that language and choosing another? No, I can't say I have. Turkey and Kim Sevarme. We'll see if there's any reaction from that. Do you find it? Boy. Why it keeps on jumping down here. Oh, thanks for. All right. Let's go back up where we lost it. All right. Gotta find my place. I don't know why it skips down on me. Yes, I want to visit Turkey. How did. Okej, pojďme v jednej straně dialektów może być Boże, w drugiej stronie. Okay, why are there more dialects in some languages than others? I think it could be historical reasons. What can I say? I mean, there are lots of, I guess if you're in the mountains, then communities were more separated from each other. I don't know the answer to that. How do I get asylum? I'm from Yemen. I have no idea. Do you want to come to Turkey? Yes. Learn the third language with your language that's not fluent. That way. Heard of Yuglish? No. What do you think about shadowing? I don't do it, so I don't have any comment. Trying right now to learn Hebrew without the nikud. How do you deal with text without vowels? Well, I started doing some Hebrew, but then I stopped. With Arabic, I don't really use the diacritics for the vowels because we have audio. We have text-to-speech. We have audio, so I can hear it. Again, it's a bit like some of these grammar issues. Once you're starting to get familiar with some of the words, and then you're looking at a word which you've already seen and understand, and then you start seeing the diacritics for vowels, it's easier to remember them. Anyway, that's what I did. I have an IELTS test and I want to develop my writing language in the shortest time. Go for it. How many mini stories do you recommend reading per day when you are starting out in a new language? There's no such recommendation. You start out with one. It goes very slowly at first, and it gradually starts going faster. It depends how familiar the language is. Like for me now in Croatian, it's absolutely, or Serbian, because I have other Slavic languages, it goes very quickly. In Persian, it went very slowly. My Romanian is also one of my dormant languages. I'd have trouble speaking it now, but it wouldn't take me long to get it back. Okay. Korean with LingQ, not the best compared to other languages. Why? I think one of the problems is the dictionaries. We use Naver, which is a very popular Korean dictionary, but I think it's designed for Koreans learning English. It just is not very satisfactory. The process has been a little slower with Korean, but I'm going to go back to Korean and we'll see if this works better now with what we have done. Okay, can I upload PDFs into LingQ without audio? Yes. And does LingQ use native speakers with what is uploaded? I don't understand. Whatever your source audio is, that's what's there. If you bring in text without audio, then the text-to-speech will be used. And the text-to-speech is what it is. It's a native speaker. I don't know how that technology works, but that's what you get. I'm Portuguese and I study English, but I want to learn French. You can learn them both, not a problem. Is it possible to remove the repetition of the blue word being said in link? I don't understand what you're talking about. I have noticed that online there's sometimes a bit of an echo. Could you send that message to customer service and see if we can get to the bottom of it? From Czech Republic. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I've been away from it for a while, talking about using comprehensive, but I have had a hard time finding it when you have zero understanding of the new language. And that's why when you start, the language is not comprehensible. So that's why I use the mini stories. That gets you going. And after that, you search things of interest. Ever discourage you when you told them you want to learn a language? Like, why do you want to learn? No, never have anyone discourage me. It's like any language. You just have to work at it. Bonjour, Steve. Do you have any true German sense of humor during a conversation? They are stuck at level 1 of humor. Well, those are stereotypes that I don't subscribe to. Alaikum salam. İnsanlar görmektedir en çok güzel. Again. As a Persian speaker, I like your Persian accent. Thank you. Can I learn French in 1 year? Yes. Advice, get on link. Which language should I try to learn? If I speak Czech, English, and a little bit of German, Latin, I would like to pick some more. You have to make that decision based on where your motivation is. I can't tell you what you are motivated to learn. Okay, thanks for your advice. I'm learning Egyptian Arabic by myself. Okay. Finish one day, maybe. How many hours do you spend on link? Okay, yeah, 2 hours. It might be 1.5 to 2 hours if I include the listening. Link T-shirt. I saw your comment on Twitter. We're working on something. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. We'll have something out next week. Big fan. Thank you, Christian. Asking what is the best app for Farsi. You have internet connection. Use it. Yeah, Farsi. I mean, see what we have. There's Persian Online, I would recommend. Okay. Do you think that English and French are main languages nowadays? Well, certainly English is, and French. Yeah, there's half a dozen languages that are very, very widely spoken. Yeah, languages that are very similar, it creates certain problems. You seem to, I find myself reluctant to leave the comfort of Spanish and force myself into Portuguese. Again, it's all a matter of time. What do you think it is that measure how many hours you need to get to intermediate? I don't really worry about it so much. I just like the process. If we enjoy the process. Yeah, 25,000 words in Spanish, you're essentially at B2. Now you have to start speaking more. Hola, hola. Okay, I'm your big fan. Okay. I would like to learn Farsi. Are there any good apps for it? Well, come on link and also look up Persian Online. Think about management when it comes to language learning. I don't have time to practice every day and I feel confused about it. Get listening and that'll drive the rest of your learning activity. Snakker jo svensk veldig godt, forstår det norsk like godt, hilsen fra norsk språkentusiast. I mean, obviously reading Norsk is easier, listening to it, not so bad. Danish is harder. And I wish we could pay on link using WeChat. Okay, I will try to remember to speak to our technical team about that. Breakfast series. I don't know what a breakfast series is. Yeah, I mean, this is the advantage of the mini stories, as you know the context, so therefore it's quite easy to get into a new language, a story that you already know, so you can focus on the language and how it works. To start learning French with just reading? Sure, there's no rush. Would you ever consider writing a sequel to your book? It's so much work, but maybe. Thank you for the encouragement. Okay, I'm waiting for you. Please let me know how to improve English. Boy, dropped it again here. You know what? We're past the hour, so I'm going to actually call it here. I'm sorry if I missed something. Thank you very much. Sorry for the confusion when we got started, and look forward to doing this again next week. Bye for now.